Hello there and welcome back. Today is a special day, as a sort of celebration for me. I started my journey with electronic music, with electron stuff. One of my first instruments that I bought when I was very young, I think, it was the machine drum. Back in the day, I don't even remember, almost probably 20 years ago or something like that. And since that moment, I got really into their way of creating stuff. And fast forward to last year at Superboot, I met people from Elektron. We start talking and we start putting down the idea of doing a sound pack using the only instrument that at that moment I didn't have, the Analog 4. So they sent me one. I become a big fan of this machine. And they also sent me last week the Analog AH+fx, which is great. And today, the sound pack that I crafted, which has 52 sound made with Analog 4, will be out on Elektron website. So check the link down below. You can go buy it and play with all of the sound. I today will go through some of them, through some pattern that I did. I will use also the Analog Hit because I think it's a great combo and you can do really wonderful stuff with these two. And I also want to explain why I like this setup. And I also release an EP that you can find on my Bandcamp, again, link down below. And the EP has been made exclusively using the A4, of course with some mastering and some mixing after. On my Patreon, you can find some of those tracks that I did by scratch, so building in camera all the parts and then mixing and mastering it. So it's a full thing and I'm super excited to finally release this. Thanks Elektron. I want to thank you just for sending this stuff, but also for creating instrument that inspired me since here. I think a lot of us get into electronic music or get into something, whatever it is, because some tool, some instrument inspire us. Back when I was a photographer, for example, I was into Leica camera, right? And that only have one of those camera make me want to do more photography. So I believe that some tools, some instruments speak to us, inspire us to do music. And that's just great because I always thought that creativity needs some tool that translate the ideas. And to me, Elektron has always been that tool that translate what I want to do into waves. So before going on, I already mentioned a few things you can do today. You can buy the EP, you can buy from the affiliate link, you can become a Patreon. And with this, you can support me, keep going on this line of work. But let's go and let's just have a chat on what it's in the sound pack. So I selected a few tracks that I made just for this. We will use also the Analog AH+fx to make things more spicier. What I think is like the Analog 4, it's a great machine by itself. It can do everything. It's a 4 voices, but the voices can be still each other, notes and voice. So it can lead to very complex composition, very complex sound. And while I was re-listening to all the sound that I crafted, I was kind of surprised too, like, God, if you spend time with this machine, you can get very, very interesting sound. So, for example, if we just grab a empty pattern, let's go to an empty pattern, and let's start playing something. So, let me go H10. And then, when you load your pattern, you will have everything here. I put it on bank D. And my idea with shape plus memory was to go in a something like a retro wave-ish, retro synth vibe. I am definitely into the kind of analog sound, a little warbly, a little drenched in time. So that was the concept behind it. So you will find a lot of very soothing sound, dark sound, melancholic sound. That's my vibe. And plus, there's something that, if you love also the kind of Vermona performer sound that it's the other part of my setup that I love. I recreate a few setup here that remind that kind of sound. So let's go through some of them just to know. Let me turn down a little. For example, I have now the effects down, so nothing go through it. We have bass. Sounds like this, which I love. Experimental sound like this, that are great for creating texture. For example, add some effects, and these already create a very interesting thing. A lot of bass. What I try to do is not using heavily the effects on board, because I wanted you to have a great starting point, and then you can add whatever tools you want to make the sound yours. That's what I like. Nice sound bass like that. I love this one. It's got some. For me, it's always important to build a chain of effects after your sound. The effects is one of the things I love most, and then it's why I think they did an amazing job with the analog IT effects. We will talk about that in a second. I cannot go through all of them, but here also this cool, interesting, evolving sound. So my idea was also to give you a pack that has everything. I really put a lot of effort in creating organic, big sounding bass. And also some of these sound have random envelope and modulation. So every time you trigger them, they change a lot. Of course, there's a lot of dub kind of stuff, and I try to make all the dub chord without using polyphony. Means that with two oscillator and two sub-oscillator, you can tune them and create chords with just the press of a button. It's pretty fun. I use this one a lot. This one has a filter that randomly moves. This, for example, is another one key chord. If you go on the oscillator page, you will see it's tuned to sound like a chord, and then you can put it, make it major, minor, whatever you want. I love these sounds a lot. And on and on and on. I love this one a lot. And all of these ones are without effects. I love when you start adding stuff. I'm going a little too hot on the computer. And then what else? Flutish I really like. And I think that's it. I don't want to spend the entire Metal Dream. This is cool. And it comes. There's a lot of modulation, so if you get the pack, try to use them in long notes so you will hear it. Let's listen to something. Let's start with some classic sound. This is a sort of Vermona analog kind of sound. Of course, you can then map everything. I did some video about that, and so use the filtering, blah, blah, blah. Now we just listen to some sound, and we had the analog effects. Let's talk a second about this guy. The analog effects is the great take Elektron did on their previous machine, the Analog effects. So the Analog IT was a good machine, a little too big for me for what it was doing. It was basically a warmer unit, and it missed one thing that I really need. That was the compressor. What they did is they kept their analog circuitry, which does distortion and filtering, and they had everything that I needed. Means a full chain of effects, compressor, the modulation part, which is great, with an envelope follower, 3 LFO, and what else? A matrix, so you can make very complex patches. It's super easy to use. Of course, it's supposed to be your end of chain thing, and you can, of course, create preset, which is great for live usage. So, for example, I have my basic master preset. Which does little, but makes sounds beautiful. For example, this is without, and this is with the master. Let's go, what happened? You have this flow button that show you your chain. So in this case, you have these 8 blocks that you can move in the chain wherever you want, which I find brilliant, because moving, for example, the reverb before the distortion or before the delay change the sound a lot. So it's fun to experiment. In this case, it's my most simple bass effects that I use, and it's, you will see here where the block has the dotted border, means that it's not active. So right now we have it, which is this block here, going into the bass. The bass module basically allows you to put a high pass and low pass filter, and also make the bass mono if you want, very useful. And then the compressor at the end of the chain. Fun things, if you press flow, you can see how much of the effects is using basically the unit in parallel, which is great. So you keep flow and you can then decide, I want to send full wet, I want to add full wet, or, you know, half of it, and it's great. This is great to create parallel mixes, parallel processing. When you press yes, or you just go through effects, then you can move into the effects that you have on. So I like to be in flow, select the module that I want, press yes, and then I'm there. For example, right now I'm in the hit. I'm using the clean boost because I don't want to really change the sound. You can set here the mix part in this section of the analog effects, only work with the analog part, the analog hit. So you can remove it, but still have all the other reverb, chorus, delay, whatever. And then you have this beautiful filter, and I really like to play with it with the resonance. It creates this beautiful sound. And then a low and high, which I think it really complemented the analog 4. Someone say, we need more bass with it. Yeah, have a box like that and you are happy. So, for example, for this, I would use, let's let's see if I like this pattern that I create. This one has reverb into the bass module, then into the delay, then heat, warbliness, and compressor. Warbliness is nice, it's this one that had some noise, and make the warbliness. You can make it as much as you want, you can filter. So when you create stuff like this, it's gorgeous. Let's remove it. So you can start with a very simple pattern like that, but to me, music and what I do, it's all about creating atmosphere, creating mood. So there it is. The fact that you can have a filter here and another master filter here, it's gorgeous. Also, this filter can be many different kind of filter. And you can use the modulation here to modulate the filter. So for example, I can go in LFO1 and I can say LFO1, in this case, is modulating the volume, but it can modulate the frequency. Let's go filter, filter frequency. Yes. And it is. Then you can make this very slow. I love that you can see what happened. You have also an envelope follower. We'll check that in a second in another preset. For example, listen to this. I have this preset here. Doesn't sound really like cool. It's the nasty and pure oscillator from the analog form. Always check the in level. You have it here, but also you have it in input sensitivity. You can check, and you don't want to go too much. So I always manage here with the main volume to come into this box the best possible way. So let's reload. Another word. Of course, this doesn't mean that you need to start with basic whatever sound, but I love sometimes to have raw output from machine and then have another tool to shape the sound. Let's go to this one. Let's pick another. Of course, everything you hear, it's made with the sound from my pack. So that's nice. Let's use this one. This is from another EP that I made. A simple tune. And in this one, I would like start driving it. And you can start like this track was made with the Mavis back in the day. It's in my Mavis EP, and it's all simple, few notes, and then you start adding distortion and effects like that. And so you have a tool to do that. I wanna go to this one. This one is pretty fun. So let's listen to this. dub stuff. So this is a dub attempt. It used a kick from a pack and a chord from a pack. I didn't add any effects. Why? Because if you do dub, you want to add your own effects. But then I create these cool preset here. Let's listen. Love it. What's happening here? Let's see. I'm using all of the possible module you can see. So I have, first module is beats. Oh, I just moved the chorus. Let's reload again. Yes, there it is. If you press, as you can see, then you can move your module wherever. That will come with it. Next week, I will probably do a full demo of this one. So here, there's this very deep thing going on. So we go into beats. That is a crunchy module that is beat reduction, crunchiness, blah, blah, blah. Then the bass focus, then the chorus, delay, reverb, compressor that compress a lot, and then warbiness at the end. We can add a little more noise. So we are here, which I think it's a great starting point. I love this sound, and I recommend to try them if you get the pack. I crafted this dub chord with the idea of giving you the chance then to experiment with your own effects. But of course, if you go here and you use the effects on board, they sound great too. So one idea, you could go in the effects, delay, and maybe add this one in fourth and then add this. And with very few elements, a kick and a chord, you can perform now. What's happening here is very cool. I'm using the envelope follower and I put a filter, as you can see. So it's only here the low end with the kick when it hits. So when the kick hits, it starts and create a envelope. And the envelope now, it's controlling part of my filter with the LFO. And then I have the LFO in random that change the filter resonance, and LFO3 that change the delay feedback. So as you can hear, you create something very organic that it's great. It's great atmosphere. Now, if you have another drum model here would be amazing. Like if you add an analog rhythm, or if you have probably just the syntactic and this one, I could redo something like that. I mean, it's great. So again, from here to that. Let's get another dub pad made. Another super simple patch. Let's turn on the this to me is all about the vibe, creating something that is enticing somehow. Okay, another couple of stuff and then we I like this pad that I created here. Let's load something here. This space. As you can hear here, there's some noise that comes and goes that it's made with the modulation, so it creates a sort of rhythmical element. I also love this preset. This comes with the machine. I modified a little. And again, we are very weird. Let's listen. For example, this is a more of experimental patch. This is made with all the Vermona kit, what I call Simply V and V Performance in the patch. Let's add this. Now you are really in a sort of otherworldly place, right? And now let's go to the last preset. And this is the kind of vibe that my pack has. Listen to the EP and you'll hear it. And let's add this one. Oh, love this one. And that's it. So, let me conclude. I think that sometimes we make our life really complicated. A lot of modules, a lot of stuff, and I love when somehow I jump in a project like this one. One instrument, focus on it, exhaust all the possibility, and then play with the effects. I know that with all of this patch, all of this pattern, I could perform a live show. I can just, be there, play with the effects, create moods. So explore your instrument, whatever it is. You don't have to buy any of this. Just use what you have. And I think the most important exercise, which with a lot of students that I have, I always push them to do, is just take one synth, a couple of effects, and just create an EP with that. That is the project that I had, and I did it on Patreon, for example, together. We were like every week working on a new track. So I really enjoyed doing that. Most of my EP, this one, the Mavis EP, the Subharmonicon EP, they all come with the use of one instrument. It's the most successful music that I've ever released. That said, again, thanks Elektron. For me, of course, it's an honor to be featured by you, and I always appreciate your stuff. And I'm super glad that I could work with you. And that's it for today. I guess I'll see you next week. Ciao. Oh wait, I forgot to do something.